Kenwood.
Today we're working on a 2014 Ford Explorer with the 4-inch Sony system. Factory curve looks not too bad, but we can improve on that. We're going to be installing the XR600/60SP. We're going to go through step by step and how-tos and what you're going to encounter during the installation. The install should take between 1 and 2 hours to do to install all the product into the vehicle. I'm going to be plugging each harness in individually to make sure that they do match up to the factory wiring so that we make our plug-and-play installation as easily as we can. We'll be using a speaker test tool to make sure that we have the proper phasing and speaker connections. This will ensure that we have the proper speaker phasing when we go to set up our EQ, because without proper phasing it is very difficult to get a true reading on your left and right. We will now continue to wire speakers individually: front, rear, left, right, and sub output. Be sure to tighten down the Allen screws, but do not over tighten. Now we can start wiring the iDataLink Maestro interface. Simply plug and play as well on this unit as it is for the rest of the install. The wiring harness comes all pre-labeled, as is the amplifier with all the inputs. The AR can now be plugged in. Grounding of the amplifier is an important step at this point. We want to make sure we choose a good grounding point with a solid connection between the frame and the amplifier. I've chosen the seatbelt bolt. Seatbelt bolt must be scraped to bare metal in order to complete a good ground. Because we're using 2 amplifiers in this install, one to run the front and satellite speakers and one amplifier to run the bass, I'm using a ground block to ensure a good connection between the 2 amplifiers. Test fitting the 2 amplifiers before I go into any install. We're going to be using the XR600-1. This is a monoblock amplifier to run a single 10-inch woofer in the rear. We'll do all my final connections on the 600-1, then I will do a test fit of the 2 amplifiers and the iDataLink Maestro box. Power is supplied to the terminal box in the rear via 4-gauge power wire that is running from the battery with a fuse in between the battery and the amplifier through the vehicle. Now I pair my phone Bluetooth via the amplifier in my phone through an app. Now I can set up the EQ, the crossovers, and the speaker inputs. Final curve, much smoother than the original curve. Now have some bass output as well.
Kenwood.